Welcome, lovelies, to another episode of Women's Wellness That Works in our expert series. And I'm super excited to have a very special friend of mine and a Grace Goddess sister here. Her name is Michelle Sanchez. She is a certified yoga instructor, Reiki and sound healing practitioner, wellness guide, and healer. She completed her yoga teacher training in 2018 at the ripe age of 50. And she evolved her practice into Yin Yoga, which supported her in transitioning into menopause. She is based in Las Vegas, Nevada, and Michelle and I are honored members of a empowering sisterhood called Grace Goddess Sisters, also based in Las Vegas. Welcome, Michelle, to Women's Wellness That Works.
Thank you so much, Anne. It's my pleasure to be here and feeling very honored to be on your channel. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, I've been wanting to interview you for such a long time, and it was just a matter of divine timing.
Yes, of course.
Yes. And so we're going to just dive into your story and who you are. And, you know, because I've known you for 15 years now, I feel like I've known you, but let's share you to the rest of the world. And so we talked about earlier about growing up and your perceptions and what, you know, we perceive from our parents and what those beliefs end up being in ourselves. What were some of those perceptions you learned from your mom in particular growing up?
As a woman, as my mom being my role model, health was always an importance to my mom, and that was something I definitely started seeing in my teenage years more so, and just kind of observing her as a young girl and the importance of but you're taking care of your body, dressing nicely, and just my mom was always physically fit, was always into working out, and just really taking care of herself and made that a priority. And I didn't know at the time, but that seed was being planted within me, you know, at a younger age. And so my mom was always that health role model for me in that way.
And so I know you shared with me early on in your childhood, you had mentioned about an eating disorder that affects millions and millions of young women now. But in hindsight, what instigated your eating disorder and what feelings were you unable to express during that time? Because it sounds like your mom, who is beautiful, I've seen your mom and I know where you get it from. She's absolutely gorgeous. It's like your mom was the perfect role model, right? In every aspect, right? Physically, right? She was healthy and everything. So what did you learn about yourself growing up about your body image?
It was more so when I became a teenager and, you know, started developing, and I noticed that my body was not the same shape as my mom's. I am much more curvy, and I felt really uncomfortable when my boobs came in, and I began then to kind of want to hide my body, and especially my boobs as a young girl, because they were just like bigger than my mom's, and I just felt really uncomfortable about that and kind of the attention that they drew. So I didn't know it at the time that I was starting an eating disorder, but wasn't like wasn't preconceived that that's what I was doing. But I was in this place of, I guess, eating more to kind of hide my body. And then when I became older and had gained some weight, then I knew I needed to shift that into changing my body back to being in a thinner size. And then found myself diving in deeper into an eating disorder of binging and purging. And, just it became a part of me, of something that only I could control, that I knew I was doing. Nobody else knew that I was doing that, not that I knew of anyway at the time. And it was a way of self-abuse, and I knew what I was doing. Uh, and I'm going to pause. I'm kind of all over the place. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Start
Yeah.
over again.
Yeah. I guess we just pause and go back into that, right? I don't have to start
Yeah.
talking over again. Okay.
So take a breath, breathe in.
Some of them
Just,
getting a little emotional, but
you know, and I want to acknowledge you for that too, because this is an emotional subject and a very, very important one for lots of women. And I want to acknowledge you for being brave enough to share your story and your journey, because I do believe that you sharing your story and your journey is going to help millions and millions of not only young women, but also adult women, right?
Yeah.
Because this doesn't just happen when we're younger, but it happens when we're adults as well, right?
Right. Yeah, most definitely. Yeah.
So we can talk more about that. And
Okay.
yeah, wherever you want to start with.
So
So
yeah, let's see. I kind of talked about uh me going into it and as a form of self-abuse, and knew that that's what I was doing at the time. Um yeah, and I had it carry on into my adulthood. It was something for me, I'll just speak, this eating disorder was just a compulsive thing I constantly had going on. Um, and it would go up and down. I would have times when I would be deeply into it. I had other times where maybe I was distracted with something else, something else going on in my life, where I wasn't so consumed by it, but it was always in the back of my head, in the back of my mind and my thoughts. And uh, yeah, like I said, I was just up and down, and would lose tons of weight, and then would gain some back, and then would lose the weight again. And it was just this pattern of self-destruct. And what pulled me out was this literal message I got from God that just said, "What are you doing?" I was driving in the car, and I just heard this big loud voice, "What are you doing? Stop it." And uh and that kind of just shook me. And I had already had my children at that time, so my eating disorder would pause during my pregnancies, and then I would kick it back up, or it would kick back up. You never really know where the control is, right, with an eating disorder. I believe it's just there, and something that I believe, as for myself, I would go back to as a reason again, or not a reason, something to control that nobody else had control over.
that's so interesting though, when you say that when you were pregnant, you stopped. So
Yes.
you obviously had the wherewithal to say, okay, this isn't healthy for me and my baby. I have to stop doing this. But then after the pregnancy, then it was kind of like, oh, I've gained weight now. I need to lose that weight, or, get thinner again. So it was interesting that you did know that it was wrong, but you knew when it was not, you weren't able, you were going to do this for you and your baby to make sure that you were both healthy.
Right. Yeah. I didn't want to sacrifice my child's health, Yeah. So,
So
yeah.
what emotions do you think were boiling up in you? Like, what things in your mind were you thinking at the time when you were going through this eating disorder? I mean, you talked about like self-worth, possibly self-sabotage.
Yeah, I definitely had a lot of self-worth issues. And that was stemmed from my parents being divorced, or getting divorced at a young age for me, and just having a lot of conflict in, I don't know, it's so hard as a kid, you just kind of all of a sudden put in the middle of this separation and trying to find yourself, or for me anyway, kind of just floundering through the whole thing. And having my biological dad really become absent in my life, I took that very, very hard.
Mhm.
And so, yes, my self-worth issues began then at the age of 10. And then it just kind of snowballed, continued on through, my teenage years. And I found that I just didn't feel like I was good enough. And I would do a lot of self-harm. And the disorder was just one thing that continued to go throughout the years. Um,
But
yes,
here's the great news. Well, share with everyone how many children you have.
I have 4 amazing children.
Yes. Or 3 boys and 1 girl, 1 beautiful girl. And I've known Michelle for so long, and she and her husband are they have the most beautiful family and grandchild now. And it's just amazing to see how far you've come, and look at you now. I mean, you are a epitome of wonderful health. And let's talk about that, because you've come out of it and look where you are now. So I mentioned earlier in your bio about you completing your yoga teacher training in 2018. So why don't we talk about that and how you got started into yoga?
All right. Well, I would like to just jump back, like right around when I was 40 is when I had that epiphany of, hey, what are you doing? This is enough. Let's do something different. And I started getting into running, which is something I never enjoyed doing before. And I was getting into and decided I wanted to run a marathon, and found a running group here in Las Vegas, a training running group. And so we did like 6 months of training for the marathon. And part of our training was on Sundays would be our recovery day, and we did yoga. So that was my first introduction to yoga. And when I felt the benefits of it for myself and my body, I was like, oh my gosh, I really, really love this. And just, yeah, the breathing and the stretching, and there was just so much about it that I just loved and my body loved, and I wanted to continue doing that. So then I practiced on and off for myself for about 10 years. And then, yeah, when I turned 50, I was in this place of my youngest getting ready to graduate high school. And I had been working part-time jobs, but I was in a place of like, it's time for something for me, and wanting to step into something. And this yoga teacher training came into my space, and I was like, yes, let me do it. And that is what I did.
I know when you and I first connected, obviously in 2009, I was practicing yoga. I was already teaching yoga. And I remember you had mentioned that you wanted to become a yoga instructor. And of course I was thrilled. I was like, yes, I get to pass the baton over to you and take over. And you've grown so much. And I mean, obviously you're beautiful. I mean, I cannot imagine that you completed yoga teacher training at 50, because first of all, you don't look, I mean, we're both in our 50s, but you look amazing. You have 4 children, 4 grown children now, and you've continued this practice. And so you also practice yin yoga. Why don't you share with our audience what yin yoga is?
So yin yoga is very passive, gentle style of yoga. All the poses are done either sitting or lying down. And you hold the poses anywhere from 1 to 5 minutes, can be even longer. But the essence of yin yoga is to just really allow your body, your muscles to soften. So instead of activating the muscles like we would do in a typical flow type class, we're letting the muscles soften so you can get into not only the muscles, but the joints and the ligaments and the tendons. and then really focusing on breathing into a particular area of the body that we are focusing on. And it's just super delicious for the whole body. And also just really, a beautiful practice of calming the nervous system and decompressing your whole body and mind.
And so how did this support you during menopause, during your transition?
Mm. Yes. Well, after doing the running for so many years, I did that for about 5, 6 years. And that actually kind of took me right into the period of time when I was getting into perimenopause. Um, and I felt at that time that my body was needing to slow down rather than the running and of course the extra heat, right, that we already got going on in our bodies from hot flashes. It was like my body needed something cooling and calming. And yeah, it was right after I gotten my yoga certification. I started practicing yin myself, and was like, oh my gosh, this is so wonderful. I would really like to offer this to other people, that everybody could benefit from yin yoga. And that's what brought me into teaching it and continuing to practice it myself.
And when I was teaching for 15 years in Las Vegas, I mean, I was teaching like hatha, hardcore yoga, core stuff. And for a long, long time, it was great. And I think at the time I was in my 30s, so my body was able to do that. But now in my 50s, I believe that yin yoga is the best way for women, even those who are type A personalities or CEOs of companies. I think all women can benefit from yin yoga because I believe in the power of the pause is breathing. And when we're in that state of just breathing, it allows us to calm the vagus, stimulate the vagus nerve, but also calm our autonomic nervous system, especially getting us more into the parasympathetic, right?
Most definitely, most definitely. And so many people don't realize that how tight their body is, especially like you were saying, business women or women that are just, day to day taking care of the kids, or really just wherever you're at. Even if you are a strength trainer, you're into your physical health by lifting weights and or running. It isn't until you actually pause and really get into a pose and hold that pose for a while that you may really feel how tight the body is, and or what it feels like to breathe into that area of the body. I have so many men and women that tell me, oh my gosh, I didn't realize I was so tight on this side, or I never knew what that meant to breathe into your ribs or breathe into your hips. So yeah, yin gives you that opportunity to just take that pause, like you said, slow down and utilize, the breath. It's so essential, right? Essential, and
Yeah, it is essential. That's why breathing is essential to life.
yes.
I share that quite a bit with everyone. And so not only are you and I both yoga instructors, yoginis, but we're also, with a powerful group of women in Las Vegas called Grace Goddess Sisters. And, you and I have grown up together basically with 30, 40 other women. And it's just a special connection that we've had. But for 15 years now, can you believe that? We've seen each other grow up in so many different ways. So it's great to have a sisterhood. And I want you to share in your experience what our Grace sisterhood means to you.
Well, in the very beginning, it was fulfilling in a whole new way. I couldn't really wrap, why it was so meaningful to me. But then I realized I never had a sister. I don't have sisters. I have a biological brother and 3 stepbrothers.
Right, that's true.
Yeah.
Didn't realize.
Uh-huh. So then to have this circle of sisters, and I never realized how much I was yearning, that community and to have that relationship. So as we began to, grow, our circle grew, and we would have our beautiful gatherings or time together, even just one-on-one time with each other, um, it it supported me in so many ways that I didn't realize I was missing. That women to women connection. Um, like I had had friends in the past, but to with us having the foundation of being in a place of really being authentic and truthful with one another, it created a whole different type of relationship than I've had in the past. And I just honor all of our sisters. We've come together, we've grown up, or not grown up apart, but life has taken us apart. We've come back together again. And each time we get together, it's just so beautiful and so meaningful, and I treasure our time together. Yeah.
Yes, and you are definitely the epitome of a divine goddess. When I see you, you have the beauty and grace about you, and I love that about you. That's what I cherish about you is we kind of live. I think I shared with you, we almost live parallel lives. We have so many similarities, you and I, in some ways, and then others, especially now that you're a yogini as well, and we're both Grace Goddess sisters. Sisterhood is so important in unity and connection. So, one of the three pillars that I believe for women's wellness is connection, community, and celebration. And I really took that from our Grace Goddess sisterhood, because that's what we do, right? We connect, we have our community, and then we always celebrate each other, which is so important as women. I don't think we don't acknowledge ourselves as much all the time, but it's great to acknowledge each other and be together and celebrate each other, right?
Yeah, almost definitely. I know I myself feel uncomfortable celebrating me,
Right.
but I love celebrating everybody else. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's get back to creating. I know I've been to your beautiful home, and you've created such a wonderful sacred space in your home, and your own personal yoga studio. But how important is it for women to have their own personal sacred space in their home?
Gosh. Well, yes, I've always had that, and I was just sharing with one of my yogis the other day that about how as a child I even had my own sacred space, which was I used to have a closet in my room that was underneath the staircase. So in the very back of that closet, I could go back there and just have my space. I'd play with my Barbies or whatever. It was
Right,
quiet.
right.
And for me, being an introvert, I definitely need to have my space and my quiet time. But for every woman, for any person, really, I feel we all can value from having a place just to retreat to. And for me, yes, I have a couple of actual little sacred spaces in each house that I've lived in. I've always kind of created that, whether it be a space just to be able to go and read or get up early in the mornings, um, to have some prayer time, to have a place where I can go close a door and just have, to myself. But for every woman that benefits and feels like they are in that place where, like, oh my gosh, I just need some quiet time, then yes, they definitely get to honor that for themselves, to honor that calling and create that for them. And it doesn't need to be a whole room. It can just be a space where they can just decompress and be with themselves.
Yes, and breathe. You also mentioned in your bio that you're a Reiki and sound healing practitioner, and I've been very fortunate to experience your sound healing in our recent Grace Goddess Sister reunion, or actually it was our anniversary. So when did you start getting into that, to Reiki and the sound healing?
The Reiki was a couple of years ago, pre-pandemic, and I just thought that would be, just an add-on for my yoga teacher, or being a yoga teacher, I should say, and just being able to offer that as well, in my teachings. And then the sound healing, I had gone to a couple of yoga classes and sound healing classes where, they had the singing bowls and the gongs, and just like taking a yin class. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so delicious.
Yes.
The same thing with the sound healing. It's like, oh my gosh, this is so delicious. I need to do this and I get to give this. And so yeah, I just started with one singing bowl and just use that for my own personal practice, and then brought that in to my my classes, and saved up and bought a set of the singing bowls, and then again saved up, bought a gong, and and the benefits of the sound healing, if you haven't been to a sound healing practice, is it just, oh my gosh, it's so, I don't know, I just so
The energetic
oh
vibration
my gosh,
of
yes.
sound healing. If any of you have not experienced, I definitely recommend, either if you're in Las Vegas, definitely experience that with Michelle, but sound healing is vibrational healing, is really,
it
for me
enters the
anyway,
body at a
it enters.
cellular level.
Yes. And of course, opening up your chakras and
move stagnant energy. It can move anything toxic, and it's just, you're literally just bathed in sound, and all you have to do is just lay there and receive.
exactly. It's
Yeah.
definitely on the receiving,
Yes.
all about receiving. So that's beautiful. I love your, when you did the sound bath for us, the Grace Goddess Sisters, recently in May. So I just didn't realize how extensive you have done it, because your practice has grown so much, not just as a yoga instructor, but as a healer in general. So, kudos to you. I honor you and acknowledge you, and I love what you're doing and sharing with the world. So last question, what advice would you give women? 2 or 3 things would you give women who may have a self-body image conversation right now? What would you say to them?
First, I would say, like, I'm just going to do this right now. Put your hand on your heart and be guided from this place, not from what your head is telling you, not from what you're seeing outside of you or on your phone or in magazines. Just place your hand on your heart, close your eyes, and feel the truth that is here. This is who you are. This is your love, your essence, your grace. This is you here. This is your truth, not all the other stuff.
Oh, that's beautiful. Very beautiful. And with you, your experience, your empathy, your compassion, your story and your journey, you definitely have inspired me. And I know you're going to inspire millions of women out there as well. Where can we find you? What's the name of your business?
Zen Within is my business.
Cool.
You can
Love
find
that.
me on Instagram at Zen _within_. And also on YouTube, I have a YouTube channel, which is Zen Within Yoga with Michelle.
Okay. And we're going to put all that information on the bottom of this video, so you can contact her and reach out to her. Do you do anything online at all for others that may want to reach out?
I can do online, like Zoom one-on-one classes if you'd like to do that. On my YouTube channel, I do have Yin Yoga, and I don't have any sound healing on there, but Yin Yoga and meditation on my YouTube channel.
Okay. So we can definitely follow you on YouTube and Instagram as well. So I'm so honored to have you here, Michelle. Thank you so much.
Thank you, my friend.
I love you so much, Grace Sister, Grace Goddess Sister, and namaste to you. Now, remember, women, every woman has her story. What is your story? Until the next time, and our next episode of Women's Wellness That Works Expert Series, we'll see you again soon. Namaste.
Namaste.